Tel Staffing and HR, in conjunction with PatriotTV.live, bring you Play Harder Radio, the premier patriotic sports and BS talk show from America's Gulf Coast. Things that matter in the world of sports and things that don't matter to anyone. It's just Faja's opinion. Where the F-bomb is allowed, but frowned upon. This is Play Harder Radio. And now, your host, James Grant.
AOC, my favorite big booty Latina. I love you, AOC. You're my favorite. She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. You look very beautiful in that dress. You look very sexy. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
I want to do a little selfie.
I love it. My favorite AOC. Nice to meet you, AOC. Look how sexy she looks in that dress. Woo, I love it, AOC. Hot, hot, hot like a tamale.
Nice, Todd. Nice start to the show. Welcome back to another week of Play Harder Radio here at the Tel Staffing and HR Studios. How's everybody doing tonight? Our guest is Frank Besednjak. We've had him on the show before. He's going to tell his story. Do we got something going on in my head?
It sounds like fake news does with her. She has the evidence. Take a look at what happened not too long ago.
Let's see what we can do.
I offered my border policy to the Arizona Republic. Your management refused to take it unless I took out the word.
This is Carrie Lake. It's nothing I had up today.
You guys are on the side of the cartels.
Well, then why did you agree to do an interview?
Because you've been pestering me.
That's true.
You've been pestering
So-
me nonstop. Because the only discussion that the Arizona Republic is interested in is a far left discussion. And Stacey,
Nope.
you've been here 10 months. You don't understand Arizona. I'm sorry to say that. I'm out with the people every day. I'm out with hundreds of people every day. Thousands of people some days. They're fed up at what's happening at our border.
Why are
I
you-
appreciate your time.
Why are you
we gave you one more question. You answered. Asked the question. We've given
Nope.
you probably 5 or 10 minutes longer. I appreciate your time, but I'm really prepared for another hit piece from the Republic. The good news is our poll.
Okay, there it is. I realized what it was. Anyway, keep going.
Where were we?
We just got done talking about AOC.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. That
All right, yeah, Frank Besednjak with us this week. I really have to concentrate when I say that. But I think I nail it pretty much every time.
It's rare. I would say you're in the upper 95 percentile of people who pronounce my name correctly.
But welcome. Good to see you.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
You're down here on vacation?
Yes, with my daughter and grandkids and son-in-law. It's wonderful.
How many grandkids?
Well, 2 here now on vacation, and I have 2 more up in Louisville, Kentucky area.
With another...
My son.
With your son?
Yeah.
Cool. You have 2 kids?
2 kids.
Me too. How old are they?
My son is 44. My daughter just turned 41.
Cool. Yeah, my son's 39, and my daughter he just turned 39. She just turned 33 a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, we're pretty close.
Pretty close.
It's about the same difference as our age. So, the first one anyway, 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
3, 4, something like that. But yeah, AOC. That's all the credit I can give AOC is that booty, that big Latina booty. Or Latinx. I don't know what you're supposed to say now.
Well, you were talking about how attractive she was earlier. So
She looks attractive in that video. Anybody disagree?
She's hot.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, we all want to get with her, and we can't. That's why we hate her. That's why conservatives hate her, because we want to get with her, and we hate her. But, yeah, I think we got a lot to talk about tonight. That video... there's just all kinds of stuff going on. You know what? It gets crazier and crazier. I mean, I say this every week. It gets crazier and crazier every week. We got this 10-year-old rape case that they're trying to use for the, the Roe versus Wade decision.
Right.
When it first came out, I thought, I bet they're making that up. But they're making it up.
No, it's to the point where you see the left coming up with things, and you're thinking, no, they can't be real. I mean, you've got to be out of your mind to do things like that, but they do it.
Right.
It's almost like I look at the world in this way. There's the people who are here that know everything that's going on, and make common sense, make the right decisions. We're all here to help each other. Then there's those who are just entertainment. I mean, they're the entertainment.
Right.
Unfortunately, their entertainment is affecting our ability to help each other, be happy, continue living the dream.
It's, it's all been, that whole Roe v. Wade thing has been misrepresented. The people are still going to have a choice. One of the things I say about that whole deal is, if you're so positive, the RV Wade shouldn't change anything for you if you're so positive that most of America wants abortion. Mm-hmm. Because if most of America wants abortion, then whatever state you live in, you'll be able to handle that. You'll be able to elect legislature that can get the legislation passed that you want.
But doesn't it make sense that the decision for something like Roe versus Wade should come from the elected officials versus a group of people? I mean, the way that now it's back to where it belongs. This is how it's supposed to be. There shouldn't be edicts coming down one way or the other from the judicial system saying that, we have to do this, have to do that. That should be done by our elected officials. So that takes us down to the state or local levels to make those kind of decisions. The people we pick are going to help make those decisions for us.
Right. And that's, they should, and as I said, if you're all the advocates, the dissenters from the decision, the people protesting outside of Supreme Court justices' houses, which is just unbelievable to me that they're allowing this, that police are lined up in somebody's front lawn to make sure that the protesters don't do anything to endanger to harass or endanger the justice. What's being out on my sidewalk?
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
I don't get it.
We said we're going to laugh at because it's just so really, this whole 10-year-old. I'm like, I don't think it's true. And then the whole Indiana thing, and then as of Monday, there was a news article, and as Jesse Waters did it. I know on Fox, the devil, Fox TV, but Jesse Waters did a story, and there was an article, I think, in the Times. Might have been the Post, New York Post, that said the AG, the Attorney General in Ohio, didn't even. He goes, look, there's no case even, and it was originally reported on July 1st. So there's a multitude of things that went wrong. First of all, you're making it all about abortion, and what about this little girl that got this 10-year-old girl that was raped,
right?
And that's not been reported, and she supposedly went to a doctor in Indiana to have the abortion
from Ohio,
and she didn't report it, so no child abuse, nothing's been reported. The AG doesn't have a case anywhere. The doctor now won't talk to anybody. Oh, I have nothing to say about that. The AG then came out and said, we have our laws allow for exceptions in cases like this. Mm-hmm. So there was no need even, which still makes me think that the whole thing could be fake. You didn't even need to leave the state. That's all. They're lying. They just lie. And now we find out who the rapist was an illegal alien.
Yeah, I heard.
So now were they hiding that? or you're going to pin it on this guy because he's an illegal alien. But that just blows your narrative of the people, the good people coming across the border illegally.
And I know, but we can have every fact in front of us with videos of everything that happened, and you know what will be done about it? Nothing, because it's all being disseminated through the typical media that is out there. And if you and I were to talk about it and bring this out into public and say, well, this is an outrage, how did they let this happen, and so on, then we're troublemakers. We're the ones who are causing the problem, not the ones who created the whole issue.
C.S. Lewis said the greatest cowardice is ignoring facts.
Very good. I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
And speaking about what we can do at the local level and such, Plato said, if you refuse to get involved, you end up being ruled by the worst of you. These are paraphrased, but they're pretty close.
It's on top. It's exactly
because you won't get involved.
Right.
So we'll touch base on a few more. Then we're going to talk about what we can do.
Okay.
Things that are going on out there. Because we both. It's funny. Frank and I were talking a little bit before the show about, sitting around, like you said, nothing's going to be done. Sitting around bitching and moaning, and F you and this person and that person and whatever, and that does no good. It's bad energy for us. You know who Joe Dispenza is, so we know that there's a certain frame of mind we need to be in to accomplish what we want to accomplish or to make change, right?
Well, it's I think it was probably a year ago or so, I came to the conclusion that I was getting so worked up over what was happening in this country and what I saw in the media and what's been presented to us that I was just angry all the time. And then I'd wind up talking to people who were like-minded, and we just get angry together. And so what have we done? We got angry. We'd post things on social media, and then I'd get banned for a month or something. And it's just happened recently. I finally got unbanned last week, I think.
On Facebook?
Yeah. It happens. But anyway, and that had something to do with something I did a year ago. That
they go back and look. Oh yeah, we found what he did a year ago.
You're banned for a month. And it's just a joke. It's hilarious. I've gotten to the point where I have to quit watching the news, and on occasion I'll pay attention to what's going on. Someone brings something to my attention. I'll do some research and do some fact finding to see exactly what's going on. However, I can't get outraged over it, and I can't get mad over it unless I have something I can do. If I can do nothing at this moment, then why should I get outraged? Why should I get all upset and worked up over something that I can do nothing about? I can start an argument with a liberal, and we get mad at each other, and
to no avail.
And nothing happens.
Right.
Yeah, it's like trying to punch my fist through this wood. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to work. So I just kind of go with the flow, and I realize that all we can do is figure out, when it comes to Election Day, how many people we can bring with us to make all the changes we need to go in effect. You mentioned something about the Dominion machines,
right?
Yep. What was that?
Well, let's talk about that. That's good. We can go into that. Todd, video number 3.
This one?
Which is number 3. So I don't know.
The one with Dan Schultz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to play it?
You got it ready?
Well,
just have it ready. You got it ready.
Yeah,
so
I'm ready.
You said I mentioned something about the Dominion machines. So I was this video was brought to my attention. I can't remember who brought it to my attention. I'm not sure, but it's Dan Schultz. He was on the War Room, and he's making the case for getting to your local GOP Republican Party and becoming a precinct committeeman or committee woman. Not to offend anybody.
Committee person or.
Yeah, I just prefer to be. We know what we know what we mean by. There was no exclusion by saying committeeman.
Right.
That's the way we grew up. It's
We'll
not
talk
that,
about
they don't want it to be
We'll
that.
talk about pronouns in another video here in a minute.
Ooh, I wonder if Frank would like a pronoun shirt.
Oh, he'd probably love one. Yeah.
I'll give it to you after. You'll see.
Okay.
But and Aurora, I will get you the time for next month's meeting, so you can either yay or nay that your husband going to the meeting with me. So, but precinct committeeman, Dan likens them to the Minutemen during the Revolutionary War. Minutemen were up in the Northeast, I want to say Massachusetts,
Right.
and were citizens that were ready to go to war at any given minute. They were ready to come to the aid or, as needed, show up and fight. And so the precinct committeeman, he likens that the modern day version of the Minutemen. And so I looked it up, looked into it, and he'd said one of the things that excited me about it was in New Mexico, these committeemen in New Mexico, in a precinct in New Mexico, had gotten the Dominion machines removed from the voting process there.
And that's huge.
Which is huge.
Very huge.
And that is making an impact at the freaking local level.
Because that's where it
You don't
begins.
have to be a damn. You don't have to be a local congressperson or senator. You can make an impact, by your action. You can get off your ass and make an impact. And they said the commitment maybe 3 hours a month. And a few hours and maybe a long day on the voting days.
Imagine all the hours of outrage people sit around who are conservative, Republicans, sitting around, all the hours of outrage that they may have within their brain and system where they can't function and can't work because they're outraged over how many things are going on.
Right.
Well, instead of spending the time sitting outraged, incapable of doing anything because your brain is non-functional when you're outraged, take the time to get involved in local politics and do something there. 3 hours is nothing. It's nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
And it's different in different cities. The things that are going on, the impact, we're pretty lucky here in Florida. It's pretty conservative for the most part around here. But I looked up the meeting. It was Monday, was the last meeting. I just went on Monday, and I was talking to Todd and Kelly and Tia, our other co-hosts on the show. They're not with us tonight. Kelly's husband's Mark it's his birthday, so happy birthday, Mark. Take good care of Kelly tonight. I'm sure you will. But that didn't come out right, but cool. And but the meeting was, they started out with a prayer and then the Pledge of Allegiance. And I was just so excited to be there. And I was almost, like, I think I told you, emotional during the Pledge of Allegiance because I do love this country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm actually getting off my butt and doing something. I feel like the show is doing something, because we talk about it and we speak out about what we believe in. But this is some actual, actual taking action, actual action. But there were two people from District 2, two candidates for District 2 Congress were there. Jordan Carr and Greg Litton. They talked about, one of the things that really gets overlooked are the judges on the local elections and state elections and the Supreme Court. I guess the Supreme Court justices are appointed, but I found out that DeSantis has appointed over half the judges on the Supreme Court in Florida.
Okay, good.
So, which is a good thing for us because there's an abortion bill going before the Supreme Court, Florida Supreme Court, here soon, and people are kind of on edge about the whole thing. But with the judges he's appointed and such, we should be all right. But they talked about the local judges. There's a race for a local judge here between Paul Hamlin, who's been a staunch conservative for a long time, and another guy, don't remember his name, who is running for judge. But in 2020, he's been a lifelong Democrat, and now he switched to being, he's registered as a Republican. So, isn't he?
Yeah.
He could have seen the light, right? He could have seen the light, but we don't know. But I know Paul Hamlin's been a staunch conservative for a long time. I've got a friend who's an attorney that I respect who's talked to me about Paul Hamlin, said, hey, man, great guy, thinks the way we do, believes the way we do, need to vote for him. So, it was nice to go there and meet these people. They each talked a little bit about it. I talked with Jordan Carr after the fact. She's I forget what it was. Pro God, pro guns, and pro life. Mm-hmm. Daniel Kinzel was there. He's the DeSantis campaign manager here in Florida. The representative for Ashley Moody, who's the Republican running for Attorney General, was there. They talked about a Turning Point USA, which is Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens' organization that's going to have their annual conference and big annual conference in Tampa next weekend. They pointed out that DeSantis has endorsed like 20-plus school board members around the state. So there's just a lot of information there. They said 6 months ago there were about 30 people at the meeting, and there was probably around 100.
Awesome. I go to local political meetings, and I go to our city council meetings on occasion just to see what's going on. And there's a lot of times where there's 6 people there. There's nobody there. And then they bring up something they're going to do, and I'm the only dissenting voice, and I would back up what I have to say with logic and data and information. And a lot of times, even at such a small level, I live in a small town called Mount Washington. We're outside Louisville. And I bring up something, they're like, whoa, we never thought of that. Yeah, how about looking into it? We will. And
do they?
Yes. Because I'll be back there the next week to make sure something's done. And they don't want some guy with a northern accent being there just making a stink and talking and dragging this meeting on forever, because I'm going to do that. And I'm not loud or anything else. And I just say, hey, I want to give you some reason why this isn't going to work or why that'll work or whatever, because a lot of times they just do things without thinking because, I think people will like me if I do this.
Right.
No common sense.
So that brought up, so I think people will like me if I do this.
Right.
Right? And that should have nothing to do with it.
Nothing.
Right?
Right.
Zero.
Absolutely.
There was I'm digressing a little, but we'll get back to the positive. On the J6 committee crap, they are 69-year-old, her name is Pam Hemphill, 69-year-old grandmother with breast cancer, was heading off to prison this week. Because, and I'm not even sure she went in. They have her walking down the steps for trespassing. 69 years old. And the judge, the reason that the judge gave her, she got 60 days in prison. Not in the county or whatever, in prison. 60 days. And the reason that she got that sentence is because another woman that this judge had sentenced, and she had expressed remorse, apologized. She was on Tucker Carlson and said, yeah, I'm not sorry. So the judge said, I've got a lot of public pressure. I've got a lot of public pressure.
I want people to like me.
She made me look bad, so I'm giving you you're getting the hammer because she made me look bad and there's public pressure. What does public pressure have to do with doing the right thing?
It doesn't have anything to do with doing the right thing. And that's the problem. Everybody wants to be, I got to be politically correct because I might offend this group and, my friends might give me grief tomorrow over what I do today. And, I'm a business coach. And one thing all my clients can tell you about me is that I'm going to say it the way it is. Whether you and I've been thrown out of companies like, okay, Frank, you're going to have to leave. And I've had one guy
in the middle of an event,
in a meeting. I'm having a meeting with people. I'm helping a company get stuff together. And I had one guy got up and I basically told him, here's the problem. You're the problem. If I was in charge, I'd fire you right now. Oh yeah, and then I almost got in a fight with this guy, and I'm there to help this company, and it's
That's
because
awesome.
they can't handle it. People, they're so worried about. Oh no, I just want to make sure everybody thinks that I'm nice. I don't care if people like me. I'm going to do what I want. And that's what people should do in these elected jobs. You know, the problem is that a lot of elected officials are so worried about the polls or what some person might say, you know, in the local news or something. Who cares? The way things are today, and you could probably agree with this, 2 weeks from now, it's gone.
Yeah. And well, we need principled people.
Yeah.
And if they're not just doing it to be liked or what because of what people think of them, they're doing it because they're bought and paid for.
Yeah.
Once you get at a higher level, they can't do
Absolutely.
the right thing. You know.
They have to take care of their people.
And I found this out. I was looking at the there was when Trump was in office, there were a lot of, let's say, backstabbers, backstabbing him and leaking information and saying that they were on the team, but they really weren't. I didn't realize that there's like a total of 4,000 appointed officials.
It's ridiculous.
Executives, or not executives, but appointees in an administration. Now, they don't appoint them all, but they can't go through and find them all and replace them all.
So
right?
they appoint people who will appoint people who
So
will
they're
appoint people.
they're what do they call it? Embedded.
Right.
Embedded traders. Mm-hmm. No principles, no morals, bought and paid for. And they're bought and paid for, I mean, we know Soros has bought AG position. I mean, money gets you elected, right?
Absolutely.
Money gets you elected. People believe what they see on TV. Just like back when Obama was running the old push grandma off the cliff commercials.
Yeah.
Over the healthcare thing.
Yeah.
So this is a way that we can affect change.
Do you see, off the subject a little bit, do you see with the way the economy is going that some of the people who have been consistency liberal are starting to say, this ain't right? What's wrong with this picture? This is not what I really thought was going to happen when we elected our guy. I mean, do you see some of that? I see some of that.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Well, I saw that back during Trump with some people that I used to work with a couple that I used to work with. His grandfather worked with Roosevelt, Franklin, on Capitol Hill. So, I mean, they were Democrats through and through. But Trump, they're like, my 401k is blowing up. And they voted for Trump, in the 2020 election, right? And right now, today, what the numbers just came out, right? 9.1% inflation, the highest in over 40 years. And what they didn't talk about is that salaries are down 4%.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Really? So wages are down 4%. Inflation's up 9%, 9.1%. 401ks are down 30%. Now, that's not a news report. That's just my son told me this. He goes, my 401k is down. I was at this amount. Now I'm at this amount. That's over 30%.
Cost you $110 to fill up your gas tank.
They say, well, that Biden doesn't control that. Well, okay, let's say he doesn't. All right, but on January 6th, the day of insurrection, I know there were some people that had weapons, but without weapons, I mean, I don't know, people strolling through the halls of Congress, I guess, is an insurrection. Most of them were peacefully strolling through. Some people were doing some dumb stuff, but gas was $1.93 then.
Yep.
Now it's $4.93. You don't have a control, but you know what? Consumer confidence makes a difference, and speculators decide what the price of gas is, what they're willing to buy it for in the future, right? And they're
That's
like,
exactly
there's no,
right.
and policy affects the speculators.
The speculators look at who's just got voted in, what their policies are, what they're doing with the EPA, how they see manufacturers are being pressured to do certain things because of whoever is in charge. There's more controls in industry, not only in manufacturing, more controls in the oil industry, which of course makes it more difficult to get oil. So the speculators are naturally going to say, well, we're going to have to buy oil in other countries, we're going to import fuel, the prices are going to go up. So they're saying, well, people will keep buying it. So if I can see fuel prices going up to $6 a gallon by next year, I'd buy it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I get involved in it.
There's probably they're talking, and then they turn around. There's probably no doubt that they're in it together. The oil company. I don't know how to take it, because they're making record profits with this saying we're shutting you down. They're still the ones importing and selling the oil.
Right.
And they're making record profits, but then they're yelling at them about record profits. I doubt they really mean it. The people believe it. Oh, these evil oil companies. Well, it's, and everybody hates, all the leftists, the liberals. I don't really like liberals, that word, as much as I do leftists, because everything leftists touch turns to shit.
Pretty much.
And they hate capitalism, right? Well, you know what? That's because the capitalism that they think they know has been bastardized. It's crony capitalism now. It's lobbyists.
And the funny part is, the ones who totally screw up the capitalist systems are the ones that they voted in.
Right.
The leftists voted in and brought people in that screwed up the capitalist system, and now they're the ones who are bitching about the system that they screwed up.
The greatest cowardice is to ignore the facts. And you see that the person you voted for, you know that we're not better off and that people are struggling. People are really struggling.
Yeah.
They want, well, we've gained 5 million jobs. Biden's created 5 million jobs since he's been in office. Well, they will not accept the fact that, your policies, your shutdowns, your attack on small business cost America 30 million jobs. So getting back 5 of the 30 that you shut down, that's not
That's not
an accomplishment.
Yeah, it doesn't deserve a pat on the back.
My friend Doug Colquitt out here, he says, why don't y'all talk about some of the good things Biden's done? Very funny, Doug.
He tried to ride a bike.
Did you see my picture of on my Facebook? Do you see my Facebook stuff?
I haven't looked.
I haven't seen yours. I don't know why we don't interact, but it was a picture of Hunter, I think naked or just like in his underwear, laying on the ground in one of his passed out, and then somebody had drawn a bicycle around him.
Oh, I saw that. Yes, that's
it was
great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was, but so you're right. We need to take we need to make change at the local level. And, Glenn Beck's been saying this for a long time. A lot of people have been saying it. We do. That is where that needs. And I feel like finally, I can't run for office. My skeletons, you open that closet door and I'd get crushed by the skeletons.
Yeah, I would be taken right out in a week.
Well, Clinton inhaled.
He did not inhale.
He didn't inhale?
No.
Oh,
that's
right.
what he said. He didn't inhale.
He said he didn't
It
inhale.
was Bush that said that he inhaled.
No.
No?
I think it was Barry.
Barry, okay.
Yeah, Barry inhaled.
Yeah, Barry inhaled. Barry was cool, yo. It's mind-boggling. You going to go to your next executive committee meeting in Louisville?
I'm going to find out where it is and go. Heck yeah.
Damn
I'll be
right.
there.
Doesn't it? And it's just, if we can just, my goal is to get 5 people. That's my first goal, is to get 5 people to get involved.
Do you want to play this Dan Schultz from the beginning, or do I jump into it?
When I tell you.
Well, I just was asking so that I can have it.
Okay, let's play it, and then Frank can get a load of what we're talking about.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to play it from the beginning then.
Yeah.
This article out about me was American Rasputin. There's been a bunch of articles from that. You know, I'm the evil genius. Of course, I'm just drafting off you. But then the news coverage. Here's the interesting thing about the news coverage. They're completely freaked out. They call us these anti-democratic fascist forces. But everything they start talking about, they say, well, he's getting people on this precinct strategy, and they're actually going and signing up to be precinct men in the Republican Party, or they're going to go be poll workers or poll watchers or election officials or canvassing boards or school boards, and they get all lathered up. Dan, the first time I met you, you told me essentially what you did is write a book and put together a concept that was a throwback to, I think it was 6th or 7th grade civics that you took when you were a young man before you went to West Point. Why are they so worked up on American working class men and women just coming to the forefront and starting to take their party back, but also starting to take back the entire election apparatus?
Well, you've asked me that question before, and I think what I said then was they don't like we the people. You know, they like to refer to themselves when they get elected as leaders. We're the United States of America. We don't elect leaders. We elect public servants. Those people that we elect are supposed to serve us, and we're supposed to make sure before we elect them that they're the kind of people that will serve us, like Sarah Palin uses the term, a servant's heart. Unfortunately, we're electing, you know, the people that are the worst kind of people. And, you know, I like that Plato quote about, you know, if you don't involve yourself in politics, you end up getting governed by your inferiors. And that's what we have right now. For too long, not enough of we the people have been even voting in the primaries. I looked at the results, just the recent ones. Iowa, 70% didn't vote in that primary for Chuck Grassley. 70% of Iowa Republicans didn't vote. Over 67 didn't vote in the primary for the U.S. Senate, the Republican U.S. Senate. Over 80% of eligible voters in Ohio didn't vote. And then I saw trending today on Twitter, vote Republican. That's what we need to do, people. We need to vote, vote, vote if you're a Republican. But then the other thing that you need to do is engage. You know, the phrase action, action, action. Just casting a vote isn't enough these days. Get off your rear end. It's not hard to do. Go to my site, precinctstrategy.com. Learn how to become an active member of your local Republican committee. It's not hard to do. And as you said, I learned all of this in 7th grade civics. It's just participating. We've got to, and I like that over the last few days you've been using that term, participatory democracy. That's what we have. The problem is not enough conservatives are participating yet, but we're starting to change that. And then you saw what happened yesterday in Otero County in New Mexico. Enough people got involved, being led by Professor David Clements, who used to be a county chair in New Mexico back in 2012. He went to the National Convention in 2012 as a county chairman. He's been involved in politics, and he's been encouraging people to get involved. And they packed those rooms, at the meeting rooms of the County Board of Supervisors, and convinced them that you're letting us down if you move forward with these Dominion machines. That could be happening all across the country, but it takes a little bit of participation beyond just voting. And that's my message. And that's why they're afraid of us. They're afraid we're going to do that. The left is afraid conservatives are going to do it. And I applaud Cleta Mitchell for what she's heading up. We've got to make sure moving forward that it can't be like it was in 2020 down in Tucson, where I worked as a poll watcher. We were lucky if we had 1 or 2 at each polling place. The Democrats had 5 at minimum at each polling place. We were lucky if we had 1 or 2 for half the day. I was down there supervising a whole bunch of them. This time, we've got to make sure we've got 5 Republicans, just like the Democrats had 5 Republicans everywhere. And you can do this, folks.
Dan's
you can
talking,
do this. Thank you.
Hang on, what Dan was talking about with Cleta Mitchell. Hang on, Cleta Mitchell was the is she's running these around the country, these workshops. In fact, I want to get up right now. There's a Captain Bannon put it into all the sites, all the chat rooms. We've got tomorrow it's going to be in Raleigh, North Carolina. They're having the seminar. These are workshops. You're not going to sit there and hear war stories. These are hands-on workshops. Dan, hang on for 1 second. I want to bring in Colonel Sean Smith. You mentioned what happened in New Mexico with the great Dave Clements, and one of it happened up in under Jim Marchant up in Nevada, where people actually show up at these counties and they start having these votes and say, "Look, we want the machines out. We want to go to to hand ballots. We want to go to paper ballots and hand counts." I want to go back to Dan Schultz. Dan's West Point Army officer. Schultz, you see right there, one of the things about the precinct strategy and getting people engaged, this whole fiasco that happened in the 2020 vote. And I want to ask you about the particularly the machines. You mentioned Dave Clements, and this shows you the participation we need people to have. They're going to the counties. It's happened in Nevada. It's happened in New Mexico. Are these huge counties? The answer is no. But the citizen, it's the same. It's the same drive. Walk through. I want to make sure people understand, particularly in the precinct strategy. You do not need to be a donor. The power of what Dan Schultz lays before you is that you actually have ownership without donorship. It's the one thing I've seen, and this is obviously the mothers going to the school boards, all this. At this level of participatory populism, what it needs is your effort, your focus, your energy, and some of your time. Okay? And realize some people have very limited time. You got to kind of pick and choose what you're going to do. But, Dan, I want to go back to this thing about there's no charge here. Yeah, you may have some incremental expenses by going to a conference or something like that, but you're not. This is something you don't need to stroke a check. This is all about getting engaged. And I think, Dan, at the end of the day, that's what most freaks out the mainstream media and the uniparty. They understand that if people actually start getting engaged here, things are going to change. Dan Schultz.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yes, it's all about showing up and your sweat equity, your time. And it doesn't take a lot of time. I ask people when I recruit them, look, your time commitment will be about 3 hours a month. You should go to the monthly meetings, learn how it all works. And the nice thing about those monthly meetings, guess who comes? Candidates. And then you pigeonhole the candidates and talk to them face to face and ask them hard questions. And if they run out of the room, you can chase after them and say, wait a second, I want to talk to you. You came here to listen to us. Well, listen to us. And so you get to do that, and then you help get out the vote. In some states, there are nominal fees, but in most, there are not. Like here in Arizona, there's no mandatory dues.
Okay, Todd.
We have a right to run.
Pretty damn cool, right?
Great. Love it.
Yeah. It's, like I said, we had the candidates for District 2, Florida Congressional District 2, and I spent, 10 minutes with her after the meeting, talking to her telling me about herself, and then we were talking about other stories, and she was involved in that. Did you see the...
was she cute?
Did you see the you're such a douche. The Air Force veteran, almost 19 years, 50 weeks. It's over 19 years he's been in, and they're kicking him out for not getting the vaccine with no pension.
No, that pisses me.
Yeah, because you're a vet.
Yeah,
and they're trying to. And she knew him. He was on Tucker. She knew him, and she got him on the show. She happens to know Tucker's producer. So I'm guessing Play Harder Radio will probably be on Tucker Carlson here soon. Look for us on your local Fox affiliate. Oh, I guess that's the cable one. Never mind. I'm dreaming. But,
you never know.
I got to speak with her. And she, and find out what she stood for. And so,
I'll tell you one thing. Excuse me, but I found that when I've gone to these local meetings, there's a mix of political parties and that are in the council meetings and things like that. And if the first couple of times that I went, I would just watch the dynamics between people, and you start to sense, if you're just a normal person, you don't have to have a psychology degree or anything, you start to sense who really runs the show there. Just like a Nancy Pelosi kind
Right.
of thing. She really runs the show, in her job. You start to see the bullies,
Right.
in the politicians, because whatever that person says, all the rest go right in line, which will give you an indication of who you really want to get out now, and not vote for, or
Right. It's funny you say that about the bullies, because that's a lot of their strategy. Say it loud, and say it over and over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why part of my, I know it doesn't please a lot of people, but part of my response, my new response to political attack or argument or whatever is when they try to do that is, excuse me, fuck you.
Oh.
Yeah, because you're not running that shit on me. You're not running that game on me. And because I don't care. Right? I mean, I'm guessing that you're much like me. My country is about, it's almost imperceptible, the difference between my kids and my country.
Mm-hmm.
How much I love them. So I don't care what it is. And this go along to get along stuff is why we're where we're at.
Right.
This.
But it isn't go along, get along. It's you bend over and we'll do whatever we want with you.
Yeah. Now it is.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little by little, right?
Right.
I made my son. I told you the story about my son,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that we've been through and how great he's doing, and he has come around to be a conservative, but he still feels it from the past. He's still got, what made him liberal, or see everything in a social justice manner that, still there's some residual effects when we talk about certain things. And so I gave him the example of income tax. He goes, well, you have to work together and you have to compromise. I'm like, no, man, you can't compromise on certain on your principles, on the whatever your foundational principles are. You can't compromise, right? Because it's like income tax, right? It's not constitutional, for one thing.
Right.
It's taken as, well, that's the way we do it, which is we've been doing it that way since, screw that, we've been doing it that way since, right? But income tax, that started out for and I don't know the exact numbers, but it started out for the richest 1%. Well, you know what, how about you guys just, and they're like, okay, well, we can give a few percent
Mm-hmm.
to help out, right? Then it was like, well, you know what, how about the, this is really good. Why don't we just do 5% of the richest 5%, right? That was 5 years later, 10 years later, and then 10 years later, and then.
When was it a period of time that anyone who made over a certain amount, it was 100% tax rate? What years there was it?
Is that right?
Yeah, it was a period of time where there was 100% tax on anyone who made over $2 million or something like that. It lasted a couple of years, and people were just going broke.
Was it during one of the wars or something like that?
I don't remember.
If somebody's listening and could look that up, that would be cool.
I just remember one of the boxers back in the day, one of the old time boxers lost everything because he got
Joe Louis, where they took everything from him because he had to pay his 100% tax. 100% tax.
Yeah, because he made a certain amount of money, and it was over a 2-year period or something.
So I came across a guy, because we got in this subject, who's I would say a leftist. He would just say he's a progressive, probably a liberal progressive, and he had a tax table that he had figured out. He's an intellectual. Been educated in our finest universities, much smarter than I.
Mm-hmm.
With my 2 years of college, but at the bottom, for people at $0 to $10,000 of income, they would receive $14,000 a year.
So if they made $9,999, they get another $14,000.
And they get another $14,000. At the top of the income, I forget where it topped out at. I forget how many million it topped out at. But at the top, it was 97% tax. So if you made $1 billion, you know, what's the biggie, man? You still get to keep 30 million.
Well, yeah.
Right? So you're rich. You're still rich.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you give that back? You know?
You didn't make that. What was it, Obama?
You didn't create that.
You didn't create that.
Hey, speaking of that, this ties in. We'll go back to it, but get the Milton Friedman video up.
Oh, okay.
Which is what, number?
Yeah, I got it.
5. Get the Milton Friedman, because he talks about the poor. And so where were we going? We got into the compromise and stuff. And we have to stand on our principles. We have to stand on principles, and we have to get involved to make change.
Well, all that happens in that sort of tax structure, this friend of yours was putting together, where it's a 97% tax rate. It's a disincentive for anyone to work towards anything.
Right, we can get into that. That's the whole concept of socialism, right? Because socialism. Is it in the Communist Manifesto, or is it the Socialist Creed, or
well, it's
whatever?
Like wasn't it Margaret Thatcher that said eventually you run out of other people's money?
Well, yeah, I think it was her, but it's to those according to their need, from those according to their ability. Right? Mm-hmm. So there's the producers and the non-producers. The producers support the non-producers. But the problem is that when you're 50-50 on that scale, there's a couple of guys eventually on the producer side that are going, why should I work my ass off to give it to this guy over here? He doesn't do shit. Right. We both live the same lifestyle.
It's kind of like what happened in Venezuela.
Right. It's exactly what happened. You know how long that took to fall, to the change and to fall? About 15 years. They went from one of the richest nations.
They were the richest nation in South America, and they decided that people were going to have a minimum income, and with this minimum income, there's people still going to work who are making the minimum income, and they're going to work. And people started thinking, well, why should I go to work when this guy here is a slug doing nothing? So I'm not going to go to work because I get a minimum income. I get enough money and everything that I need to survive.
Well, weren't they taking that minimum income from the oil companies that they took back or something?
Well, they nationalized them,
yeah. Nationalized them.
And then all the people who ran the oil companies, the people who really knew what they're doing, who were the oil company giants, left, and they left it to the government to run the oil companies.
Right.
Well, since nobody wants to go to work, who's going to work?
Or they don't know how to run a business either.
Right, at all, nothing.
But they're filthy rich. And by the way, these percentages don't, everybody knows, right, that socialism's not for the socialist. It's for us.
Right.
Not the socialists. They have a different plan. So what we're saying is that what was 50-50 now becomes 52-48.
Mm-hmm.
And then in another couple years, it becomes 60-40. And then it becomes 70-30, 80-20, 90-10, and 10 can't support the 90%.
Yep.
Right?
That's exactly
You know what happened in Venezuela? The average adult weight loss in a year was 25 pounds. They were losing.
I didn't know that.
They had an average. The average adult lost 25 pounds. The average.
That sounds like a good exercise program, though. I
could weight loss program.
I could stand
Ain't no
to lose
fat
20
shaming going on there.
There's no food.
There's no fat shaming going on.
Empty shelves. Think about that. Empty shelves.
It'd be like during COVID.
Yeah.
So you got to affect change locally. That takes me to something else. All these the shootings and stuff. There's been I was telling you about the crime in New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's the outrage over and justifiably so over the school shootings. I have some thoughts on that stuff, but obviously it's horrific. The loss of kids, what's worse?
It's horrible.
But in New Orleans alone, and they say, this article says, what this article is headlined is, toddler shot on Bullard Avenue, 4th young child hit by gunfire in New Orleans, this year in New Orleans. and nobody's saying a word. But listen, and it's really not this year. It's since April 25th. April 25th, 3-year-old girl is fatally wounded in what police deemed a negligent homicide in the French Quarter. On June 22nd, a 2-year-old boy was shot and fatally wounded in Holly Grove. On Tuesday, 2-year-old boy was shot in the leg while in a car at Costco. And then on Wednesday, a 2-year-old was shot on Bullard Avenue. At least the fourth toddler struck by gunfire this year in New Orleans. Not a word. Yeah. Not a word. But you know what happens if we were to affect this kind of change locally in the big cities? Because I talked about this the other night at dinner over at my friends out on the beach. There's no blue states. There's only blue cities.
Oh, that's very true. Yes.
And that's all they have left. And that's what they're scared of. Because when we stand up, and that's another thing. I said that last week too. The silent better get unsilent real quick. The silent need to get unsilent. But we start affecting this kind of change on a local level, getting at city council meetings, school board meetings, saying we're not. And you got Milton Friedman.
Yeah, it's ready.
We were talking about the compromise, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about that taxation situation. So play this Milton Friedman clip. I love Milton Friedman.
He's great.
In reference to talking about government's role in a free society, you mentioned some of the market failures, and I think that you may have just passed over one that is of utmost importance, and that is of poverty. And in prefacing my question, I'd like to refer to what President Kennedy said, that if a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. And to say that, well, we are a government of the people, and when there is a large sector of the people who are hurting, perhaps it is the responsibility of this government of the people to help out.
Well,
my question is regarding how free are the poor, how free are the unemployed, and how free are those people who are disadvantaged? Right. And so in reference to that, what is government's role?
Sure.
Pause
First
for a second. What's funny is we talk about the way colleges have become.
Mm-hmm.
This is Milton Friedman, probably in the 70s.
Yeah.
They've always been this way.
Right.
For a long time, they've been this way.
Yeah. You can go way back, and I don't know of any time where it wasn't like that.
All the East Coast colleges started out as seminaries.
No.
Yeah. That's how they started on the East Coast.
It's just like hospitals. Hospitals all started out by churches.
Yeah.
The evil church.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm glad to see one vote for the poor. First of all, the government doesn't have any responsibility. People have responsibility. This building doesn't have responsibility. You and I have responsibility. People have responsibility. Second, the question is, how can we as people exercise our responsibility toward our fellow man most effectively? That's the problem. So far as poverty is concerned, there has never in history been a more effective machine for eliminating poverty than the free enterprise system and the free market. The period in which you had the greatest improvement in the lot of the ordinary man was a period of the 19th and early 20th century. Those of us in this room are the heirs of that. We benefited from the way in which our parents and our grandparents were able to come here. And by virtue of the freedom that was offered to them, were able to make a better life for themselves and them and us. But next, if you look at the real problems of poverty and denial of freedom to people in this country, almost every single one of them is a result of government action and would be eliminated if you eliminated the bad government failures. Let me be precise and specific. Why do we have so high an unemployment rate among black teenagers? It's a disgrace and a scandal. Why do we have so high an unemployment rate? First of all, because we give them lousy schooling through governmental schools, which make them unqualified to hold decent jobs. And second of all, we require employers to discriminate against them by not hiring them unless their productivity is enough to justify a minimum wage. The minimum wage rate is the most anti-Negro.
It's our responsibility.
I'm pretty well off. I mean, I do well, and
well, you're a you have experienced exactly what he's talking about the immigration process that have come from somewhere else and benefited by the freedoms and by the economic system here in the United States.
Correct.
To succeed.
And I mean, I came here when I was 10 months old. My parents brought us here, but like I was saying, I'm doing pretty good, and I mean, I don't have to work anymore. I could just stop, but I love what I do. And so I don't want to stop, because working and being successful allows me to have the ability to help people rise up and become better at who they are and what they do. If you start punishing people who do well, like myself, who my sheer existence and my ability to help other people, random people who may not even know who the heck I am, and I help them create a life and become something, because that's my calling. That's part of what I do. But I couldn't do that if all of my resources were being taken away and if I was being punished simply for the fact that I am doing better than most. That doesn't make any sense, because the job, just like he said, the job of people is to help people. And it isn't government's job. That's an entity. The government can't do anything but raise taxes, lower taxes, and then go to war. I mean, that's about the real job. They don't need to interfere in our commerce or the day-to-day.
They do a lousy job at it, too.
Oh, absolutely. Horrible. The productivity, if you were to look at the United States government and the way they produce and their performance, productivity, you'd shut the company down. If it was a business, it would have shut down years ago. There's no way anyone could even survive in that type of a thing. But yet we have people like us who work hard, and, like my parents, just old blue-collar workers, busted their ass, and you add all those people together, they're the ones who run the country, and they're the ones who provide things for those who need versus the government doing it. Because I tell you, I would rather teach someone how to do something and spend time with someone and give them the right tools and information to get the job done so they can go out and create an income for themselves and their family. That's what I love to do. But you can't do that when the government will just hand them over money.
Right.
It's not going to work. There's no incentive at all for anyone to get off their butt and do anything when their minimum requirements are met. And then if they want something more, they're jealous of people like me. I have a nice car, and I get to do nice things. And am I a bad person because of that? I don't get it.
There's many that have that attitude.
I know there is. Yeah.
I saw it in jobs I've had over the years where I remember one in particular that the receptionist was pissed about the owners going on vacation, or kind of they get to take these great vacations. I can't even afford to take vacation. I'm like, whose fault's that? There's no personal responsibility. People don't take responsibility for anything.
No, and you're right. That people bitch and say, you're lucky you get to go stay in a really nice hotel and everything else. No, I worked my ass off. I mean, when I was a kid, we didn't have crap. I got used clothes for Christmas. I mean, and used toys. And I remember there was a period of time where I was growing. I went through a growth spurt, and my tennis shoes were super tight. And I had these red ball tennis shoes, high tops. And I told my mom, I said, you need new shoes. My feet hurt. And she says, well, you have to wait a couple months because, we just can't do that right now. So she said, well, I'll try to do something for you. So I get up in the morning, and she had cut the toes out so my toes wouldn't hurt. And like the front of my tennis shoes were missing. And I thought, what'd you do this for? She says, well, your feet won't hurt now. And I thought, oh, this is ridiculous. My friends are going to laugh at me. And so I went and got duct tape and wrapped it around the front of my shoes so it would kind of look like it used to.
Yeah.
You know, the old tennis shoes had that little round area.
Right.
And I put that on, and a friend of mine said, what the hell did you do with your shoes? And I said, oh, I thought it looked cool. So I did that. He says, yeah, that is cool. And then he went and did it, you know.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you said red ball. I believe those would be red ball jets.
Yes. Yes, red ball
Yeah.
jets.
That's your date. We're dating ourselves, dude.
60s.
Yeah.
Late 50s, early 60s.
You know what's funny is you saying, I believe you said you're 66.
Yes.
I'm 63. And I still enjoy working. And you do, as you said. But, you know, when he said the people, it's not just, it's our job to take care of the poor. But that doesn't just mean giving them
No,
stuff.
It's helping them rise up and become a working person.
Everybody will hate this analogy, but it's the analogy my dad gave me in, I don't know how old I was. Somewhere, I was probably 10 or something. I can't imagine I was 8, 9, probably 10-ish. And he said, Democrats give people fish, Republicans teach people how to fish.
Pretty much, yeah.
And so, you know, and a lot of people hate that. You know, I've said that to people before, and they're like, yeah, I know. Give fish, teach people how to fish. Well, it's really kind of true.
It is true.
You give somebody a skill, you know, like there's anybody out there that doesn't have a job or whatever, could sign on to our company as a broker and make a living if they want to go out and sell the product. You can be a salesman for anything.
True. I could get 10 people who have basic mechanical or I know hundreds of contractors across the country, and anybody who has any type of mechanical skills knows
Right.
how to use tools. They will teach you how to do everything, and before you know it, you're making 30, 40, 50 bucks an hour. But
Depending
you gotta
on where you live.
Yeah, right, depending on what part of the country you're in. And you have a job for life if you just are willing to learn something. I got to share this. So I was speaking to a bunch of young guys who are plumbers. They're 35 and younger. And I was in this company. It wanted me to come in and talk to them about their customer service, professionalism, and all those kind of things. And I could tell they're like, you know, they didn't want to, you know, they're forced to be here, and I have to listen to some old guy
blah,
talk.
blah.
Yeah. And so I thought, okay. So I looked at him and I said, hey, how many of you guys, you're all skilled trade people, how many of you guys think if you lost your job today that you know you're guaranteed a job tomorrow? Everybody raised their hands. They said, we can go anywhere. Right? So you can go right down the street to a competitor and get a job there. Right. Yeah. All right. So how many of you, if for some reason this company and the economy crashed, which you haven't experienced yet because they're in their early 30s and down, do you think you'd ever get to the point where this company might lay off half of you people in this room? No, that's impossible. Yeah, because you've never experienced that yet.
Right.
They haven't experienced it yet. And I said, so if I were to own the company and I had to lay off 50% of you, who do you think I would keep? And they couldn't really answer that. And I said, I'm going to keep the people who have the most value. And as people go through life, it's their job in a democracy as this is, in this type of economic system, it's their job to create the highest amount of value for themselves in their life, in their career. I push that onto my kids. The more valuable you are, the more you can accomplish.
Wouldn't it be better to just provide people with a living wage, Frank?
Oh, yeah, sure. And they'll have no value.
That's what drives me so nuts.
I know.
I mean, that's such a great point because I say that. First of all, I say 50% of people have no business going to college. At least.
It's pointless.
Well, I want them to have life experience and, you know, learn about living away from home. And
Yeah, send them to the military.
Go to a trade school then.
Yeah.
Well, that would be my if I had my way.
Everybody would go.
Everybody go do 2 years.
Yeah, I agree.
And then we can flush out the shit.
Yeah.
Right? We can flush the shit and find the people that want to get busy.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, they do it in Israel.
Yeah. And that living wage thing, that running that living wage, I hear even Republicans talking about living wage and shit. And I'm like, and Milton Friedman was about to get at it. Is that still, yeah, you're still there.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about that, go ahead and play that real quick.
Negro law on the books. And it's an anti-Negro law because it precisely, having
Pause.
first not...
If you just tuned in or forgot, he's saying that that minimum wage is one of the worst laws on the books, and he's telling us why. Okay.
Not enabled the young blacks to have a decent schooling so that they can have productivity. We next deny them the on-the-job training that they might get if you could induce employers by being able to hire them for relatively low wages to give them on-the-job training that would make them qualify for higher payment and higher productivity. In the third place, we have constructed a governmental welfare scheme which has been a machine for producing poor people. We have induced people to come under control of welfare. I'm not blaming the people, don't misunderstand me. It's our fault for constructing so perverse and so ill-shaped a monster as the whole set of welfare programs we have under which we encourage people, families to break up, we encourage people to move from one part of the country and come to another, under which we have, in effect, made many people poor.
Okay.
And yet, when all this is...
It's just mind-boggling. But people won't grasp it.
No. I think I saw this 10 years ago somewhere where the lowest 10% of our economic class are still better off than 90% of the people on the rest of the earth.
Right.
So if you take the lowest income people in the United States, lowest 10%, they're still better off than 90% of people on the rest of the planet.
Right.
And we're still bitching. Hey, I'm the first one to say, hey, we should support someone who has physical ailments and they can't do it. They need to be taken care of. And I'll be the first one there, and I'll do whatever's necessary to help people like that. But the rest have not learned to increase their value. I mean, I banged my kids over the head. Be the most valuable person in the room. If you go in for a job and there's 80 people in the room, you have to be that person they want. Why? Because you know more and can do more than anybody else. And it's a lifelong thing. And I still go to school. I still read books. And I still keep getting better at what I do because I want to provide the highest amount of value to my customers.
What's the seventh habit of highly effective people? Sharpen the saw.
Yeah, sharpen the saw, yeah.
Just keep learning. Keep learning. Just becoming a master at your craft or learning whatever. Become more valuable.
Exactly. And, I've been in all kinds of different scenarios, and people would say something, and I'd say, well, it's because of this and that, and it's something that I should not even know. But I know it because my customer base knows it, and I'd go to a school to learn about whatever, indoor air quality. I became certified. Why? I don't know. I never practiced it, but it's something that a lot of my customers will get involved with, so I wanted to know, and I spent the money. So if we're sitting there at lunch talking, we can have a conversation over what they do on their job because I want to provide that value.
You consult for HVAC, plumbing,
electricians, now more big contractors, some bars, nightclubs here and there.
Yeah. So you've become an expert at what you do, and daily and periodically improve upon that.
Right. And I tell them one thing, and this is something that people in the audience, you have to look at what the world is all about. If you want to become very proficient and successful in your life, do what people are willing to spend money for. I remember a joke George Carlin said I think it was George Carlin. He says, you nail two things together, never been nailed together before, somebody's going to buy it, you know? And you just have to be able to present it in a way that makes it awesome, and they're gonna get it.
And to another degree, you just have to believe in it. You just have to believe in it, and somebody's going to buy it.
Yeah, that's true.
That belief in it creates that presentation of it that lets them, you know, that conveys your idea.
And I tell all business people this, and I'll tell you this right now. You're a business guy. If whatever you had to offer in your business, if I could go on my phone and say, all right, I need this, and I put in my credit card, and it friggin' happens, wouldn't that be ideal? Well, it's your job as a business person to get as close as possible to that without impacting quality in every business. And I tell people go buy stuff on Amazon. I mean, I can order something now, it'll be there tomorrow or next day. Why can't everybody offer their services in a similar way, in a similar manner? It's almost impossible, but the closer you get to that, the better off you are in your business. And it's through constant education and learning and moving forward and looking at the market and seeing what people spend money for. You know, you can't decide, well, my career, I'm going to doodle on paper and have people buy it. Well, nobody wants it. You have to have people want something. Just because you think something's fun doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a career choice.
Has any value.
Right. It has to have a value. And, you know, it's so important to be the most valuable person in the room. And you can't do that by just showing up. You have to learn. You have to know more. Be willing to open your mind. Be the hardest working person in the room. It'll pay off.
Right. What time is it, Todd?
It is 8:17. You know, you're talking about what's the kind of people that are talking about our next generation of people and things like that. Maybe we could watch this video that I think is funny about the professors that are teaching our kids right now.
Do we trust him, do you think, Frank? I haven't previewed this, so.
No, it's the one
I'm
that
giving
you
shit.
picked out.
Sure.
The Berkeley teacher.
Oh, Berkeley.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know,
you're right.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
Do you want to tease this at all?
No.
This is what's teaching
Just go
our
with
kids.
it. Just go with it. When I say pause, Frank, you give me your insight.
Okay, here we go.
Before I want to visit with you, Ms. Meskey, but before I do, I just want to clear one thing up. Professor Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing them.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide. So I think it's important
because of my line of questioning?
Because
so we can't.
That's who's teaching our kids.
And you know, the ironic thing about this is what's ironic. If you were to talk to this woman and say, do you believe in God? She would probably say no. However, the stuff that they're spewing is like a religion. Like, it's not real. However, if we say...
Don't say you're not religious.
It's not real. However, it sounds like they are fabricating something that really isn't anything. But yet, if you say it enough times, it is so.
Right. And the mainstream media, I mean, it's part of, Saul Alinsky, right?
Yeah.
It's one of their, you say it.
over and over and over
and over.
again.
And then they believe it, and the masses believe it.
Yeah, you teach it.
You know, I had to explain the, the left is now, you and I, and Trump, and the Republicans, this is their big thing right now. Democracy is on the ballot this year. Mm-hmm. Democracy is in danger because of people like us. Well, first of all, we're not a democracy.
It's a republic.
We're a republic, a representative republic. And I was talking to my son about this, the Electoral College, and he's, and I'm like, do you really want? It's to avoid, the inmates running the asylum.
Right.
Right. Are there more employees or inmates? In the asylum. There's more inmates. Mm-hmm. So if they voted on how things should be in the asylum, we know who would win. The crazy ones.
Yeah.
It's the same in society. Yeah. There's only so many captains of industry and people with the principle and the I say education, but with the intelligence to run things. So that's why we have the Electoral College.
Otherwise,
the masses rule. It's to avoid mass rule.
Well, then
mob rule. It's to avoid mob rule.
A whole group of states wouldn't have any representation at all, of zero. I mean, they wouldn't have any representation.
Right. You know how many people are in Wyoming? 500, 600,000.
They would have nothing.
They would just go by they would have zero.
It's like you said earlier, our big problem is the big cities, and that's basically what would rule the country.
Correct. Yep.
We get these precinct committeemen into the big cities and get that going in the big cities especially. People say in Florida that, we don't have the problems here. Listen, they're trying to enact it here. All this leftist progressive agenda.
They're doing it in Texas. They're
right.
They're trying to do it in Texas.
They're enacting it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always just a little bit at a time. It's just a little bit of a time. They said during the 2020 election, we're Florida. There was no cheating here. There was cheating here. But they just couldn't overcome they couldn't cheat that much in Florida. They couldn't cheat that much in these states.
It would have been too obvious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, there's too many watchers in those states, too. People are going to stand up and say, wait a minute. I mean, we've been doing that anyway, but I'm not here to talk about that, or that big lie, but I'm still vehement about how I feel about that. But, so.
I'm there with you.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, and whether that lady who just got done, that college professor,
yeah.
I really don't believe she believes that.
I wonder too if they really believe. But what's the end game for them?
They have to.
What's the reward?
Well, no,
keeping my job.
They will be excommunicated from their group. I have and I'm not going to mention names. I have a couple friends, and they live in California, and they're lesbians. And they're just friends. And no, don't go down some crazy road. It's just who they are.
Right,
and I have through business,
As do I.
And through business, I met them and everything, and they're great people. And unfortunately, because the people who live around them and their friends and relatives, they have to hide the fact that they're conservative. Because in their group, in their circles, they can't talk about it. They have to hide that. Think how weird that is. What kind of country is it where you have to basically hide that
who you are,
and what your opinions are, and what you think the way things
okay,
should be.
Hopefully they'll be able to come out of the closet at some point.
Let me just elaborate on that for a second. What time in history did a certain group of people have to hide their identity from? probably the most obvious situation was what?
Gay.
Well, no, before that. Before
that.
What at what time in the world history did a certain group of people, ethnicity of people, have to hide their
Jews?
Right.
Oh, the Jews, yes.
In World War
Yeah,
II.
World War
right?
II, yeah.
And so I'm just saying, who do conservative blacks and LGBT people have to hide their true, their true principles from?
From the same people.
From the left. Yeah, the
Yeah.
same kind of people, which is who? The
left.
The left.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad.
Not from us. I mean, that's what the whole Saul Alinsky is, right? Thing is projection. They project you project your actions and sins on your opponent, make them look like it. Yeah, we're the old white males that need to be eliminated because we hate gays and and we're pro-life. I don't know what you are, but which they just lie.
I can
Not that we're
explain
not
my view on that real quick.
Okay.
It's not my decision. It's God's decision. And if you kill a human being, it's between you and God, and you're going to hell. That's where I stand. And
Right.
and whether the law says it's okay or not okay, if you choose
You still
to do
gotta
that,
answer.
you still have to answer for that. So it's not my choice or not my choice or my choice, whatever. I'm not going to be the person doing it. You have to pay for your sins.
Well, I don't think that's. I don't think that. You know what? I can't get anybody on either. I can get very few people on either side to answer this question. If we could come, let's just say for sake of argument, the heartbeat bill. If we could come to an agreement, whatever it is, 6 weeks, which is what the heartbeat bill is, or let's say 12 weeks, which is where there's abortion in any country that has abortion on demand, it's about 12 weeks, right? The United States was 20 and up.
Yeah, I know it's sick. Yeah.
And so, but if we could come to an agreement on whatever that is, where it was legal, all right, could we quit fighting about it?
No, they won't. No one will quit fighting.
Right. But it's a waste of time,
right,
and energy, and it's division, and it's hurtful, and it's and I don't need. I believe you would agree with this. I don't need somebody to legislate my morality.
Exactly. I agree.
Right? And I'm like, why can't anybody answer this? Because they won't answer the question. And so I'm saying, but now you can keep fighting for whatever you believe. But we're not going to have that fight in the political arena, is what I'm saying. We come to agreement on whatever it is, right? And then then you do it privately. You fight your battle not that nobody knows about it privately. You fight it in the private sector. You create a pro-life or a pro-choice nonprofit, and you raise your money, and you fight your battles. To convince people to get abortions, or to convince people not to. It's not, like you said, if you want to choose it, but you're the one that you got to pay later.
That's
one
how
way
I
or
look
the
at
other.
it.
And I've been around it and involved in it, and I know that. And they don't even talk about this with women. And I know there's a lot of people I've had. Shout my, celebrate my abortion people and that kind of thing. I think they're hiding some mental damage that goes along with it.
Yeah, it's
because they say once you kill, like even in the military or whatever, or you see it in the movies, right? Once you kill your first person, it changes you forever, right? Is it any different with a baby? Well, at least some are honest enough to agree that it is a baby, right? There's others. It's not a. I saw one the other day. I'm Jewish, and we don't believe and we believe that life begins at birth. I haven't researched if that's true or not.
I've never heard that.
But that was their argument. I'm Jewish, and life doesn't begin until it comes out of the womb. So,
but yet, if I were a
Right.
criminal and I shot someone and it killed the baby at 6 months, I could be charged for the murder of that
manslaughter,
child.
negligent homicide,
Yeah.
second-degree murder,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, it's a nasty argument, but people, I would like to quit fighting about that.
I agree.
Because I don't need somebody to I find this difference. I think that, what time is it, Todd?
It is 8:30.
We'll wrap it up in a minute. We're right at the end of our Patriot TV time, but I believe that I believe that 90% of us share 80 to 90% of the same values.
Oh, yeah.
Respect, personal responsibility, respect for your elders, respect for authority, work hard, if earn your keep, right? Just the basics of being a good person and whatever. But people don't vote the left, in my mind. You don't raise your kid to just take handouts to support themselves, but yet you vote for that kind of legislation. So I think that the difference is a social justice, social issues, and fiscal responsibility issues. I had the argument with somebody a few years ago. He agrees with me on all these fiscal issues. Would you say that the country's in real trouble if we don't get things under control fiscally? Yes, I would. Do you agree that the Republicans are a better group of people to do that than the Democrats? Yes, I do. Okay, so how are you going to vote? I'm going to vote for the Democrat. Why? Because I don't want Roe versus Wade overturned, and I don't want my kids to have to pray in school. Okay, but is that...
Your kids...
Can't you...
Your kids won't have a school eventually.
Well, I don't want them to have a government school anyway. Isn't it funny that what Milton Friedman said about in the black community, they've been educated by a government school system that sucks, but they're against school choice. The left is against school choice.
I know.
Because they want to keep them in that, under that thumb.
Under that thumb. The union, they want the union involved, they want the teachers to have a say, and they want everything to be done a certain way to meet their needs so they can continue down the same road they're on.
I appreciate you being here tonight.
It's been a pleasure, man. It's always fun.
We talk pretty well. We get along.
Yeah,
we
I wanted to talk a little bit more, but time is time.
Yeah, so we're gonna we'll do it again then.
Hell
you know
yeah.
what? We said this last time, but this time I won't wait for you to come back in town.
Okay. Yeah, we'll figure something out. I can Zoom from anywhere, basically.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
love this. I love this.
You like the studio?
Yeah, very nice. First thing I said was very impressive. Good job. I like it.
Tell staffing and HR has been very good to me in this with this room. I wanted a little room that I could put some foam on the wall and everything, and this is what it ended up being.
It's a little bit more than a little room.
It's like a real-ass studio.
It is.
It is a real-ass studio.
It is.
So, hey, thank you for tuning in tonight. Frank, thank you for being here. Thank you guys for, in the chat and making your comments known. Scott, we missed Tia tonight. She's out having a good time. But Kelly, thanks for tuning in. Scott, I saw a bunch of other people in there, Gabe and Aurora. And we'll see you next week, Thursday night, 7 p.m. Central. Same bat time, same bat channel, right here for Play Harder Radio. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
So long. Thank you. That was good.
And
we're done.
We're done.
It's funny, it shows off here quicker than you did.